you said that you were briefed against by Number 10. And they used your mental health issue as a weapon to hit you over there, which is utterly appalling by anybody's standards. And then yesterday we discovered that Chief Whip Jonathan Reynolds has told you never to contact him again. We said the text earlier, you made it public. How have they got the front with all that they talk about in terms of, you know, I mean, we have the working people, well, you've screwed the economy, and they talk about, you know...
Well, there you go. This is GB News Originals. I'm Emily Carver. Please do give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. And do leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Do you think...
We shouldn't be divisive, and we should be caring, and we should be sharing. And they do that to one of their own elected representatives, Carl Turner?
Yeah, just to be clear about it, my nephew took his own life about 10 years ago, in truth, but my mental health suffered a lot at the time, and I sought advice and support and help from the health and well-being back then. And there was a time where I had to stay in a hospital in Hull because I was just very ill and I needed to be in hospital. I was truly incredibly unwell. I wasn't sectioned, but I needed to be in there, having, if I'm honest with you, attempted to take my life. And it was very dramatic for the family and put strain on the family, as you would expect.
Of course.
But I got better. A couple of sort of 15, 18 months ago, I was under the cosh again. And I sought support from Health and Wellbeing. And I'm convinced that the Number 10 Downing Street briefed against me. Why? Because journalists were coming to me, incredibly well-regarded journalists, editors. I'm not talking about reporters on some sort of, you know, some sort of paper that's not very impressive. I'm talking about incredibly senior journalists, editors of newspapers, and asking me directly whether in fact I was ill, because they were being briefed to take no notice of what Carl Turner was saying on juries, because Carl Turner is mentally unstable. Wow. I'm not going to say who, Jeremy, but very senior people in the Conservative Party. And when I say very senior, I'm talking, you know, nearly as senior as it possibly gets, coming to me saying that she was briefed by the people in the Whip's office that I was mental and I needed to be ignored, and that they shouldn't be supporting my objection to jury trial curtailment, because actually Carl was mentally unstable, I think was the turn of phrase. I wasn't unwell. I didn't feel unwell at that time, but I still am under a psychiatrist. If I needed support, he will be there. And I'm on medication. I'm on an antidepressant, but it's been reduced substantially from what I started on 15 months ago. So I feel strong. But the message for me yesterday was to put a serious message out there to say, look, if we really do believe in good mental health in the Labour Party, and we have ministers coming out last week in the Mental Health Awareness Week and speaking with real compassion, these people, including the Prime Minister and Chief Whip, need to reflect on the stuff that they know I have alleged has happened to me. Now, neither of them have come back to me to say that that's going to be investigated. One example I'll give you, which I've spoken to the Chief Whip about, is when he was required to speak to me about my so-called poor conduct, which was my opposition to jury trials, I was receiving text messages from journalists whilst we were on the phone, which was saying, we are now being briefed that you've been suspended. I'd not been suspended. The Chief Whip was ringing me to have a discussion with me, not to suspend me, but it was clear that Number 10 were briefing I was about to be suspended, and Johnny Reynolds, for whatever reason, decided not to suspend me, just to warn me. But the stuff they were talking about was just made up. It was fabricated. I've not had any disagreement with any colleague in Parliament, apart from the public ones where I've said the plan is ludicrous. And there's this alleged my conduct being horrible to people is just made up. It's not true. Find me the person who says I've been horrible to them, and I'll speak to them about it. But it's not true. It's just about smearing someone on the basis that they think.
Labour's civil war just went nuclear. A suspended MP is now suing his own party. And today, we are prizing those doors wide open. What you are about to hear involves a sitting Member of Parliament, a six-figure legal claim, allegations of a smear campaign built around someone's private mental health struggles, and a political party that now has to explain itself to a tribunal rather than to voters. Stay with us, because this one gets uncomfortable fast, and by the end, you will understand exactly why so many people are losing faith in the machinery of British politics. Before we go further, if you are new here, welcome to Britain Underneath, the channel that pulls back the curtain on what is really happening in UK politics, without the spin and without the sanitised press releases. If that sounds like your kind of thing, hit subscribe now, because we publish stories like this one regularly, and you do not want to miss what comes next. All right, let's dive in. At the centre of this storm is Carl Turner, the long-serving Member of Parliament for Kingston-upon-Hull East. Turner is not some backbench nobody. He is a former criminal barrister, a man who once held the position of Shadow Solicitor General, and someone who spent years building a reputation as a serious operator within Labour ranks, which makes what has just happened to him all the more startling. Turner has lost the Labour whip. That means, functionally, he has been cast out of the parliamentary party and now sits as an independent. But he is not going quietly. Instead, he is taking the fight to an employment tribunal, naming Business Secretary Jonathan Reynolds and the Labour Party itself as respondents. And the sum he is seeking is not symbolic. We are talking about a six-figure payout. Now here is where it gets genuinely fascinating from a legal standpoint, and I promise this is not just dry procedure, because the mechanics of this case could reshape how every political party in this country treats its own MPs. Members of Parliament are not technically employees of their party. There is no contract, no line manager, no HR department in the traditional sense. So how on earth can Turner drag Labour before an employment tribunal? His legal team is arguing something quite bold, that under the Equality Act 2010, a political party functions as what is known as a trade association, and trade associations can, in certain circumstances, be held liable under discrimination law. If a tribunal accepts that argument, it will not just decide Turner's fate, it could open the floodgates for other disillusioned MPs across every party to challenge how they were treated internally. This is bigger than one man's grievance. This is a potential rewrite of the rulebook governing power inside Westminster. So subscribe now if you want to be the first to know how this case unfolds, because Britain Underneath will be tracking every twist as this heads toward tribunal. Let's talk about how we got here, because the roots of this fight go back further than most headlines suggest. Turner was one of the loudest internal voices resisting reforms championed by the then Justice Secretary, David Lammy. Those proposed reforms would have stripped away the right to a jury trial for a wide range of offences, carrying sentences under 3 years. For a former criminal barrister like Turner, that was not a minor policy dispute. That was, in his view, an assault on a centuries-old pillar of British justice, and he made his opposition loudly and publicly known. Shortly after that resistance, his whip was withdrawn. Labour's official line is that this had nothing to do with policy disagreement whatsoever. Party sources describe a pattern of what they call intimidating and disparaging behaviour toward colleagues. Turner sees it very differently. He has described the suspension, in blunt terms, as punishment for speaking truth to power. Two very different stories, and only one of them can be closer to the truth. Here is the part of this story that should genuinely give you pause, regardless of which political tribe you belong to. Turner has spoken openly, in public, about a deeply painful chapter of his own life. Years ago, following the suicide of his nephew, he experienced a psychotic episode and required hospital treatment. That is an extraordinarily difficult thing for anyone to disclose, let alone a sitting politician under constant public scrutiny. And according to Turner, it was precisely that vulnerability that was allegedly turned into a weapon against him. He alleges that in a meeting with Jonathan Reynolds, who was chief whip at the time, concerns were raised suggesting he was mentally unwell. Turner claims that from there, hostile briefings began circulating out of Downing Street, briefings that left colleagues and journalists quietly asking questions about his mental state. In the House of Commons, he did not hold back, accusing figures inside Number 10 of running a smear operation against him. He went further still, sending formal legal letters demanding the briefings stop immediately and making sure copies landed with both the then Prime Minister and the wider cabinet. For his part, the current Labour leader has publicly said that nobody should be smeared over their mental health. Whether that principle was actually upheld behind the scenes is now quite literally a matter for the courts to determine. Reynolds, meanwhile, has since moved on from the whip's office and now holds the business brief in government. Labour has consistently denied any connection between Turner's jury trial campaign and his eventual suspension, insisting the whole matter comes down to conduct complaints and nothing more. As of now, there has been no formal response to this latest tribunal claim. And here is a detail that adds a genuinely human layer to what could otherwise read as pure political drama. Turner has indicated that if he wins, any damages will not go into his own pocket. Instead, they are earmarked for a hospice in Hull connected to his family. Whatever you make of the politics here, that is worth sitting with for a moment. Take a breath, because there is real weight to what we have just laid out. This is not simply gossip about Westminster infighting. Employment tribunals almost never touch disputes involving sitting members of Parliament, which is exactly why legal observers are watching this so closely. Should the tribunal rule that political parties can, in fact, be held liable in cases like this, it would send shockwaves through every party headquarters in the country, forcing them to fundamentally rethink how internal discipline and dissent are handled. Both Reynolds and the Labour Party now have a strict 28-day window to respond once the formal particulars of the claim are served. That clock is already ticking, and Britain underneath will be here the moment there is movement. If this story has shown you anything, it is that the polished version of politics you see on the evening news is rarely the full picture. There is always more happening underneath the surface, and that is precisely what this channel exists to uncover. So before you go, do us one favour. Hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and stay informed with us, because Westminster never stops moving, and neither do we. We will see you in the next one.